Continuing a Volkswagen tradition in cabriolets that goes back half a century to the original Beetle, this improved Eos is a classy and elegant folding hardtop convertible in a market where some competitors are anything but. Pricing that's a little above mainstream family hatch-based rivals is justified by higher quality, better residuals, a more spacious rear seat, and an extremely clever metal folding roof. Convertible cars, for most of us non-lottery winners, are usually based on bread and butter family hatchbacks like a Renault Megane or a Peugeot 308. From there, it's quite a big jump to the more prestigious cabriolets you'll find based on junior executive models like BMW's 3 Series or Audi's A5. But the difference in quality between the two categories is often huge. So what if you could have a convertible with affordable open-top family hatch pricing, yet prestigious cabriolet sector quality? Well, such was the thinking behind Volkswagen's Eos, launched in 2006. It's sold steadily on these shores, but with cheaper rivals upping their game, by early 2011, Volkswagen decided that the time was right for a mild facelift, a few specification upgrades, and some engine tweaks. Hence, the model that we're looking at here. The other reason for this Eos upgrade is that it must now sell alongside and be priced above a convertible version of the Volkswagen Golf. That car's a soft top. Hence the need to push this hard top folding roof model further up market with a smarter look and a classier interior, which complement the rather enigmatic name. Eos, in case you were wondering, was the Titan goddess of the dawn who would open the gates of heaven each morning to let her brother Helios, the sun, ride his golden chariot across the sky. Now, with that little nugget, Volkswagen owners can quickly take the intellectual high ground in chance encounters with owners of humbler Renaults and Peugeots. More importantly, they'll have bought themselves a car that's a more solid day-to-day proposition when it's freezing cold and chucking it down. Given that sunlight travels 93 million miles to reach us, it's nice to be able to give it a warm welcome, which is something you'll want to do at every opportunity with this car. Now, the changeable nature of our climate means that it's not always possible to travel roof down as often as we might like, of course, which is why this car's unique provision of a tilt and sliding sunroof is so welcome. Now, the downside is that the glass panel that's 1 metre wide, necessary for this, adds to the Eos's weight. The 22 kilogram bulk of the CSC roof mechanism means that this car is 300 kilograms heavier than an equivalent Volkswagen Golf family hatchback, and even 100 kilograms heavier than the much larger Volkswagen Passat. So you might not expect the engines on offer to have quite the get up and go that they would when fitted to some of the brand's other models. In the event, it's not too bad. The engines on offer are, after all, a willing bunch, though only the flagship 2-litre turbo TSI 210 PS unit from the Volkswagen Golf GTI feels truly fast, going from rest to 60 in 7.8 seconds on the way to a top speed of 148 miles an hour. Most Eos customers, though, choose to fill their cars from the black pump by opting for the 2-litre TDI 140 PS diesel unit, which wafts you along on a wave of torque. And both of these 2-litre models come with the option of the Volkswagen Group's clever twin-clutch semi-automatic DSG gearbox, though the price tag that's associated with it will take your purchase to well over the £25,000 mark. And that could be a little more than you'd thought of spending on a compact cabriolet of this sort. Should that be the case, then you could find that the 1.4 litre petrol TSI models offer a better combination of virtues. There's a 160 PS variant that's not much slower than the flagship 2 litre petrol turbo. But here I've opted for the entry-level 1.4 litre TSI with 122 PS, capable of rest to 60 in 10.9 seconds on the way to a top speed of 123 miles an hour. Which is quite as much performance as you'll really need to properly enjoy this car. It isn't, after all, supposed to be an MX-5 or Lotus Elise style roadster, something you'll realise as soon as you venture down a bumpy road. The ride quality is superb, with the shudders and shakes that afflict so many open-top cars banished over all but the worst tarmac imperfections. Sport models get tortoise springs, but even standard Eos variants handle well, and there's loads of grip, though this isn't a car that you'll often want to drive just for the fun of it. The Eos doesn't feel like a convertible when the roof is up. It's quiet, and assuming you pull this blind across the roof panel, then a glance skywards reveals a convincing looking ceiling. Roof down, all the engines bar the diesel keep themselves to themselves during the sort of low speed cruising that lets bystanders get an eyeful of this car's impressive looks. The acid test of any folding metal roofed car is how it looks with the roof up. Well, this one, as you might expect, isn't at its best when fully closed up, but the front end at least is a little smarter than it used to be, thanks to these restyled headlamps with their optional LED daytime running lights, this modified front grille, and this restyled front bumper that adds 16mm to the overall length. From the side, you follow a sharply rising wedge line to the boot, where a smarter set of Passat-like tail lamps have been fitted. But the CSC roof is really what this car is all about, intended to combine the elements of hardtop roof, sliding glass sunroof, and full convertible metal roof. Now, with everything erect and in place, you could be forgiven for not knowing that this car is a convertible at all, which says much for the system's seamless integration. Of course, a boot, limited to just 380 litres, might give the game away, but even this is pretty comparable to what you get in a Golf hatchback. As for the roof itself, well, the mechanism is unchanged over the original version of this car, save for the option that buyers now have of operating it via the key fob, useful for those occasions when you're over the road from your parked Eos, sipping a cappuccino, and the heavens suddenly open. Most of the time, though, you'll be dealing with the rooftop mechanism via these buttons located within the front central armrest. Now, this middle button is for the sunroof element of the whole thing. Ideal for those occasions when you simply want sun without the wind. Should conditions brighten sufficiently for you to retract the entire roof mechanism, though, pressing this chrome element of the switchgear is able to pull the entire roof back in a fashion so acrobatic that it still makes passers-by stand and stare. Mind you, they'd better not be standing too close to the boot when the whole thing starts. The rear of the car initially falls backwards, enough to clonk into the vehicle behind if you were tightly parked, had not Volkswagen decreed that all Eos models should have rear parking sensors to disable the roof mechanism in such a situation. Assuming that you are in a position to use it, and to be fair, the system doesn't need that much space. The German designers reckon that it can be operated within most domestic garages. Then the whole folding roof mechanism is worked by an electro-hydraulic pump with no fewer than 8 hydraulic cylinders, able to sandwich itself into 5 pieces in just 25 seconds. Now, of course, once the convertible panels have sandwiched themselves into the boot, they'll also have munched their way through quite a large part of the available baggage space. The room on offer falling to just 205 litres, which is less than you'll get in family hatchback-based cabriolets like the Peugeot 308cc or the Renault Megane Coupe Cabriolet. But that's because Volkswagen doesn't really want buyers comparing this Eos to those kinds of cars. That's why the designers robbed a little of the rear boot space in pursuit of a rear seating area that'll comfortably accommodate 2 adults, as long as the journey isn't too long. Now, to rival that, you'd need a much pricier executive sector cabriolet, based on something like a BMW 3 Series, an Audi A5, or a Saab 9-3. Now, it's this element that will be so useful to Volkswagen dealers in differentiating this Eos from the Golf Cabriolet that must sell alongside it in the showrooms. The Eos, of course, is a folding metal hardtop cabriolet. Rather than the Golf, it's a folding soft top. But the Eos is also a longer car that sits on a wider track and uses rear suspension from the larger Passat. The interior is different too, beautifully assembled in the Portuguese factory and more expensively trimmed than you'd find in the Golf, with chrome trimmed highlights, nicer fabrics, and the option of cool leather that doesn't burn your backside when you re-enter the car after leaving it parked roof down in the sun. Now, it's likely that you'll be paying somewhere in the £23,000 to £33,000 bracket for your Volkswagen Eos, depending on the model that you choose and the spec preferred. The premium to go from petrol to diesel power is only around £600 if you go from the Pokia 1.4 litre TSI petrol to the diesel variant, but that still means you'll need to budget up around the £25,000 mark for the 2 litre TDI 140 PS model. Now, whether you see these kinds of prices as being good value depends largely on what you're comparing this car to. Against family hatchback-based cabriolets, the pricing is slightly above, so you'll be paying somewhere between £1,000 and £1,500 more than you would for an equivalent Peugeot 308 cc, for example, and maybe £2,000 or so more than you would pay for a slightly less powerful Renault Megane Coupe Cabriolet. Many, though, will think that fair, given the way that this Volkswagen's classier feel and more spacious rear seat puts it into contention with BMW 3 Series and Audi A5 class executive cabriolets that could cost you up to £5,000 more. The Volkswagen Eos petrol engine lineup includes this entry-level 1.4 litre TSI turbocharged 122 PS unit. It's also available with 160 PS. While further up the range, you'll find the petrol engine from the Volkswagen Golf GTI, a 2 litre TSI 210 PS power plant. Diesel drivers, meanwhile, are catered for by a 2 litre TDI 140 PS engine that's good through the gears, but less easy on the ears. All Eos models come well equipped with air conditioning that also extends to the glove box to keep your chocolate from getting mushed up on hot days. Plus you get front fog lamps, you get alloy wheels, electric mirrors, rear parking sensors, a hill holder clutch to stop you drifting backwards on uphill junctions, plus a decent quality 8-speaker iPod and MP3 compatible CD stereo with controls on the leather covered steering wheel as well. And there's electric windows all round with a useful one-touch retracts all facility. Many owners will want to specify the optional wind deflector, which fits over the rear seating area and reduces buffeting at speed, but effectively also reduces your car to a two-seater. Leather trim, which keeps it cool in direct sunlight, will also be a tempting option. Now, apart from vehicle security, one of the key benefits of the hard-topped coupe cabriolet concept is safety, and this car will indeed be safer than a comparable soft top in a rollover with the roof up. With the roof down, aluminium bars, rollover bars, will shoot out from behind you in less than a quarter of a second if sensors determine that a rollover is imminent. Now, standard ESP stability control should help you not get into such a position in the first place. But if the worst should happen, then head and thorax airbags, cleverly concealed in this front windscreen A-pillar on both sides, will shoot out to protect you. Plus, there are Isofix child seat attachments in the rear, anti-whiplash head restraints, and the usual electronic braking and traction aids. Go for an Eos with either the 122 PS 1.4 litre TSI petrol engine that I have here, or the 140 PS 2 litre TDI diesel, and you'll find that your car will have Blue Motion badging. The Blue Motion technology package that this designates gives you brake energy regeneration, a system that reclaims the energy that would otherwise be lost under braking and helps you reuse it as part of the car's normal engine processes. Something you'll probably notice quite a bit more, though, is the engine start-stop system that cuts the unit when you don't need it, when you're, say, stuck in heavy traffic or waiting at the lights. Now, as a result of all this 1.4 litre TSI entry-level petrol unit manages 45.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 144 grams per kilometre of CO2. That's not a million miles away from the figures recorded by the diesel variant, which manages 58.9 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 125 grams per kilometre of CO2. A gear change efficiency indicator on the dashboard should help owners get somewhere near to those kinds of figures on a day-to-day basis. The 160 PS 1.4 litre TSI petrol model does without the Blue Motion gadgetry, but still manages to achieve 41.5 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and put out 157 grams per kilometre of CO2. The figures take a tumble though if you opt for the petrol 2 litre TSI turbo. You'll get 39.8 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 165 grams per kilometre of CO2. What else? Residual values are good, as you'd expect, given the build quality and the Volkswagen badge on the nose. There's a 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty. Insurance groups are between 18 and 30 on the 1 to 50 grouping scale. And servicing costs can be kept low thanks to a long life servicing regime. Now you could see why someone might buy an Eos. True, it could be better to drive and to look at with the roof up, but then you could say the same for most cars of this kind. Bottom line is that it's a cabrio with the kind of class you get from a BMW or an Audi at not too much more than you'd pay for a convertible Renault or Peugeot. As I've said, strong points include rear seat passenger room, an impressively efficient engine range and buoyant residual values. Best of all, there's that brilliantly engineered folding top with its clever sunroof feature, meaning that you're not constantly needing to put the full top up and down on those typically British days when it's sunny one minute and showery the next. A convertible then for the real world. How very German.